This time, let's talk about what a method signature and overloads are. A method signature refers to the name of the method, the number of parameters in a method, and the types of parameters. Let's see some examples of this. Let's say we have this code segment. On code segment 1, we have a method name called showGreeting. And then on our code segment 2, we have another method with the name showGreeting. Both of these methods uses the same name, showGreeting. And according to the method signature, if the method name and parameters are the same, our C# will have this confusion in identifying which method to be executed when calling one of this method. So therefore, this method leads to ambiguity, which means incorrect. Let's see another example on how to address this issue. On code segment 1, the showGreeting, which display a text on our screen saying what a wonderful world. In code segment 2, we have another method using the same name, showGreeting, but it has one parameter, a greeting parameter with a type of string. Looking between these two methods, you can see the difference. Although they are similar with the name of the method, showGreeting, but the code segment 2 uses a parameter variable with a type of string. With this, C# will be able to know what method will be executed when calling one of these methods because they differ on the number of parameters. And this is called method overloading. When you have methods with the same name, you are overloading a method, and this is accepted. So let's see some examples of this in Visual Studio. So to start with our examples on how to write methods, let's create a new project, File, New Project, and then select Console App. Just below of our main method, let's create a new method here, static void showGreeting. And then we will display a text showing this on our screen. What a wonderful world. Okay, so next, let's create another method. And the name is the same as the first method. And it will display a text on our screen saying, what a lovely day. All right, so as you can see, we have an error here. So this little red underline telling us that type program already defines a member called showGreeting with the same parameter types. So as you can see, we have an error informing us that we have two method names having the same number of parameters and having the same method name. So this is ambiguous. So the C# compiler will have this hard time in identifying which method to execute because they have the same method name. So to address this, we have to make it different whether in the method name or in the number of parameters or the types of parameters. So let's start. Let's modify this. Let's add a string variable here. Let's say greeting. And then we'll replace this text with the greeting variable. Okay, so there are no errors now. So let's try calling these method names inside of our main method. So let's write here console readline, and then let's write here show greeting, and then as I type the open parenthesis, it will display a code hint showing that we have two types of show greeting. So there are one of two types of greeting. The first one is a show greeting without parameters, and the second one is the show greeting with a parameter. So if we will leave this without parameters, then meaning we are calling the show greeting without parameters. So let's call the show greeting without parameters. And then let's add another line here. And then this time we'll supply what a lovely day. And let's try running this application. All right, so this is now the result. So on the first call of show greeting, we executed the show greeting method without a parameter. So this shows what a wonderful world. So just like with the output, what a wonderful world. And then on the second call of show greeting, we supplied a parameter or an argument. So the argument that we added in our parameter is what a lovely day. So that is why it executes the show greeting with a parameter. So it's showing that the string contains what a lovely day. So this is called method overloading. So let's have a few more examples. So this time I'm going to add a function, a method that will return a value. So let's write here static integer, and then I will call this add. Let's say we want to add two numbers, and then we are going to return a value displaying the sum of these two numbers. Okay, so let's try calling this inside of our main method. Let's create a space so that we'll be able to separate the first example from the second example. Okay, so this time let's write here console right line, and then let's call the add. And let's write here 2 and 5. So let's try running the application. Okay, so there you go. We have the 2 and 5, so which results to 7. So let's try overloading the add method. So let's try to create another one using the same name. But this time, we will have a different parameter type. Let's use the string as a parameter type for our parameter variable. And we will call our first variable str1 and the second variable str2. And then we will return this result as concatenated. We forgot to write here the open and close braces. So return str1 concatenated with str2. Okay, so let's give this a try. Right, so we are having some problems here. So it states here that we cannot really convert, or because we have an int here, so we have to rename this to string. Right, so let's call this inside of our main method. Again, let's create enough space between the second example to our third example. Copy this, paste this just next to our space. Then we will add here string. This is a method. Okay, so let's run the application. All right, so it was able to concatenate or combine the string this is plus a method. Okay, so using the same method name, the add. So basically, we have now two versions of add. Add for adding numbers and add for concatenating strings. Okay, so let's add more here. So this time, let's try creating another method, an overload method of add, but it will be about array. So we will add an array. We will call this add that will take three-dimensional array from ARR1 and then another integer here, an integer array, three-dimensional array, and this will be called ARR2. And then we will write here res or int with three dimension equals to, which will equal to nothing. Then let's create a loop statement here. Int I is equals to 0 and then while ARR1 that get upper bound of the first dimension is less than or equal to I, and then let's increment our I. Then let's create another 4 here. Then we will name this J, which will start at 0, and while J is less than or equal to 2, and then increment our J by 1. And then we'll also state here that our res from the column number of I, column number of J, 0, will have a value of ARR 1 and IJ 0. And then we will keep on doing this because we have 3 dimensions. We will also write 3 lines, okay, for 1 and for 2. First dimension, second dimension, third dimension. So because we have 3-dimensional array on this definition of our add method. So we'll do the same thing here, 1 and 2. Right? Then after that, we will return our res. Okay, so let's continue. So let's assign a default value for our res. So let's write here equals to new int, and then let's give this a value of 3-dimensional values. So let's try 1, 2, 0, 0, 0, 0. So it will be a perfect square matrix, and then comma 0, 0. We have too much curly braces here, so let's reduce this to 3. Okay, and then let's add the dimension here. So we are dealing with 3 dimension, so that is why we have to add these 2 commas, just like with this one. And we forgot to add here the close parenthesis or the close curly brace. All right, so that's it. And then after that, let's try calling this add. Okay, inside of our main method, let's define 2 arrays here, 2 3-dimensional arrays. Let's call the first one as my array 1 with new integer. The first row will be 1, 2, and 4. The second row will be 2, 4, and 1. And the third row will be 2, forgot to include the curly braces, 1, 2, and 1. Alright, so let's copy this and paste this just below my array 2, my array 1 and my array 2. Okay, then we will just create or select numbers in random order. So right here 0, 1, 1, 1, then 3, 1, 2. So let's create here another array variable that will hold the result of our my array 1 and my array 2 when they are added. So let's write here int, and then we will call this result. So we are going to add 2 different arrays, the array 1 and the array 2. So let's do this. Let's copy and paste this. So this is the first argument and then the second argument. Right? So for us to display the result, we need to create another method. So at the bottom, we will just name this static void. So it will not return any value. We're just going to name this show 3D matrix. And then we'll create a loop statement here. We forgot to supply a parameter. So let's write here int arr, and then for I is equals to 0 till I is no longer less than or equal to the ARR get upper bound, first dimension, and then increment I by 1, and then let's create another loop statement here for in j is equals to 0, and while j is less than or equal to 2, so because we are dealing with 3 dimensions, 0, 1, 2, so that is now the dimension. So and then we increment the j by 1, and then we will use the console write line here to display the elements of our matrix. So let's start with our first element. So we can do that by stating here ARR 0, I, j, and then 0. And then we will just copy and paste this for the succeeding placeholder, but we will turn this to 1, and then turn this to 2. So let's give this a try. So let's now call our new method, the show 3D matrix, inside of our main method. So let's display the first array, array1, and then let's create space here, and then let's display second array, and then let's display the result. Okay, so let's try running this application. We forgot to include the console read line. Okay, so let's write here console read line. All right. So the first matrix contains 1, 2, 4. So let's have a look on our matrix definition. So this is now the 1, 2, 4. 1, 2, 4. Okay. And then the second row contains 2, 4, 1. So here it is. And then the third row contains 1, 2, 1. So here it is. So for the second array, we got this matrix here, square matrix. Oh, we forgot to rename the second call of our show 3D matrix. It should be my array2. Okay, so let's rename this. All right, so let's give this a try again. Okay, so for second matrix, we have the 1, 0, 1. So here it is, 1, 1, 1. Here it is. And the last row is 3, 1, 2. Here it is. And then after adding the rows, so it should give us a result of add array1 to array2. So let's move to the addition of our array. Okay, so we forgot to write the addition operation here. So let's fix this for a while. So we just have to copy this plus AR2 plus AR2 and 1, and then plus AR2 and 2. Okay, so let's run this again, and then let's see the changes that we have made. So after adding 1 plus 1, it gives us 2, and then 2 plus 0, it gives us 2, 4 plus 1, it gives us 5, 2 plus 1 gives us 3, 4 plus 1, that is 5, and 1 plus 2, that is 1 plus 1, that is 2, and then 1 plus 3, that is 4, 2 plus 1, that is 3, and then 1 plus 2, that is 3. All right, so to summarize everything, what we did here is just we created overload methods. So the first overload method is the show greeting. We have two versions of this. The first version is a method show greeting without any parameters. So it just display a text on our screen showing what a wonderful world. And the second version of this method, it has a parameter variable, string parameter, that takes an argument, and whatever value that we supply on that argument is the one that is printed in this method. And then we have another overload method named add. So it has three versions. So the first version is it adds two integers. The second version of this is that it concatenates two strings. And then the third version of this is it adds two matrices. Okay? So that's how you perform overloading of method. You have to be very careful on the method signature. The method signature should be different from each other. Okay, so that's all for this video, and thank you for watching.